Our informal survey of 19 people after the midnight show tallies up this way. 10 loved it, 7 liked it or thought it was okay, and 2 are no longer Star Wars fans. But even those who weren't thrilled say they had fun being part of the hype.
Welcome to the 611 Films YouTube channel. We are back in 99. I'm one of your hosts, David Groves, and with me, as always,
Neil McKay.
What's up? Okay, he's back. We're back in 99. We are talking today about Star
The Phantom
Wars
Menace!
Episode 1. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It needed a few extra titles, I guess.
It was the biggest, it hadn't been the biggest cinema event since maybe the first Star Wars in 1977.
The Phantom Menace opens at midnight.
Place in the Star Wars line.
People started lining up over a month ago.
All right, get out your lightsabers.
You just may have noticed that Star Wars, the latest episode, opens nationally at midnight tonight.
The hype surrounding this movie has been overwhelming. Now the question is, will it deliver?
They're about to open the doors here in just a few minutes, and people are revved up.
Focus tonight.
It really didn't have any personality. It was amazing. It was everything I thought it was going to be and more.
The hype and the craze, but is Star Wars worth the wait?
In which they probably didn't know, because a lot of people weren't betting on the first one. With Lucas.
That was just kind of a come out of nowhere. Boom. This was like when people knew this was coming in 97, 98, it was like, oh my God. And then when, spring of 99 hit.
How they replayed Empire and Jedi, like they replayed things in theaters in 97.
Right, in 97, 96, 97. Yeah, they were doing the re-releases of the
remember
originals.
So we had done a podcast with buddy Ryan Cunningham like a year ago, year and a half. We had talked a lot about Star Wars. And
we talked about
all things Star Wars already.
So we did the whole thing. We did the originals, this is the prequels, the 99 one, obviously, and then the new ones, the J.J. Abrams ones. So we go all things Star Wars. So we've kind of covered this a little bit, but I mean, this specifically for 1999, obviously the biggest movie of the year, the most hyped up movie, the most anticipation. I mean, people were losing their minds over this thing coming out.
Right.
Not to say it was the best movie of 99.
All right, everyone, chill.
But it's definitely the most people.
It was definitely on more people's radar and what it did, and obviously it did very well.
Yeah.
The box office proves that it did very well, and of course, if it, I think that the storyline, the characters, all that stuff, it was that Star Wars movie. Like, it was what people maybe wanted. I think the biggest issue, as everybody said for years, was the Jar Jar Binks, little wacky character.
Yeah, I mean, it's and we've talked about this before, but I mean, when George Lucas, he went against all the odds to make the first 1977 one this big hit.
Right.
Was told no money, just coming out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, he's got this franchise and toys and just up the yin yang. And then you kind of give him the keys to this Maserati and he's just like, and nobody's telling him no. And he does this. And it's kind of like.
And by the way, the freeways are fairly open. You can just go as fast as you want.
Yeah. I mean, and I think this is kind of what you have when you have no adversity, no struggle, no just anything you want you can do, yes sir, whatever you want, it's genius, and it's sort of like it didn't have nearly the magic that the first one did, and people kind of went
sure. But I don't know, people nowadays looking at the latest, like with Force Awakens and the J.J. Abrams versions, and I don't know, there's been a lot of criticism, or obviously with Disney acquiring Lucasfilms, acquiring Star Wars, as we've talked about too, is like that now they look at the prequels as being masterpieces, or like, I don't know if that's a real feeling.
I mean, I've heard that. I don't really see, I mean, as problematic as the new ones are, I some of the stuff in the prequels is just, it's just not good at all. I mean,
Very
if the new
heavy.
ones are, you know, the J.J. Abrams ones are kind of Disneyfied and kind of just like recycling the same old stuff. Okay, but at least it's like, you know what you get. Some of these prequel ones was just like, I mean, just the title itself, the Phantom Menace, and it's this like political trade thing. And like, what is going on here? It's just like the whole thing is like, this is not what I signed up for. What are you doing? Like,
I think the fun, the visceralness of, you know, with Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, you know, this introducing those characters and the brashness and the difference in characters.
yeah.
You know, as much as I like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor and all that stuff, it's like this is a very more of a slow burn than people might remember.
Yeah. I mean, no, it really was. Like, there were like really boring parts where they got into the whole like backstory, the political machinations, and it was just like, nobody cares about this. It's the originals were about, you know, good versus evil, and just very simple. Just they're on a journey and they're trying to stop the bad guy.
Right. Yeah.
Now this one's like, what?
What?
This was the start of let's do a prequel. And I don't know how, obviously people were down, and there was that poster, we've shown it or we've seen it with, you know, the young Anakin and the Darth Vader shadow.
Which is cool.
Iconic. Yeah, really
Yeah.
cool. But he really started that. I mean, look, Furiosa just came out this past weekend. It didn't do all that well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this started this idea of we should now tell the backstory. And I've always said, why?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that, and I think a lot of people were like, okay, we'll go with all of this stuff because they really just wanted to see how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, and then it was and then at the end of it, they were like, ooh, maybe we should have just left that one alone.
Every good story has anticipation.
I've been waiting 15 years since Return of the Jedi came out to see the prequel.
There's no way it's going to be a disappointment.
Are there any of you that think this is going to be a lousy movie?
No.
Yeah. I read the Roger Ebert review. It was pretty interesting too. And it goes into movies today. He was like, with this digital technology that Lucas is using, obviously, we go forward 9 or 10 years with Avatar and all that stuff. It's like the imaginations of people can all be that, and budgets be damned. Budgets have actually gone up way more than you thought, and the technology of digital nowadays just seems worse than it ever has. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
digital versus we did another one of those too. I thought that comment was so interesting because budgets can go down because now we can make things cool in digital, and it's almost like let's get back to doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'm always kind of like a person that would be, oh yeah, I think it looks better on film, but I think this kind of opened the door for like, okay, we don't have to do, because filming on film is a pain in the ass.
Well, I mean, just digital, like the actual VFX or having that more VFX or green screen, whether it's doing digital like cameras. I mean, like the digital effects kind of. I mean, Lucas did introduce that idea of the digital camera.
Oh yeah, it paved the way for all of the stuff you see now. But and yes, there was a lot of great things. But like, you know, CGI is good in certain ways, but then, you know, practical is better in a lot of ways. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think you can do, because of these movies, these prequels, you could do a lot more with like, you know, these special effects than you could have before. And there's good and bad with that, you know. And it's sometimes people just go leaning into this. I was working in a movie theater when this came out, and nobody wanted to open up against Star Wars, but somebody had to. And I don't know
how many. Let's before we end. Like, what was the theater like? Was it showtimes in all theaters with just Star Wars?
No, they had. So the theater I worked at, I think it had something. I'm going to say 10 or 12 theaters or something like that, and I think 2 or 3 had Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, the 2 biggest ones, obviously, and then the THX ones and all this other stuff. But I mean, there were still big movies that were still pulling in people, like The Mummy and Entrapment was still out, and you know, so I mean, people were still going to see those. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like, when you had
there's a 1:30 and then a 2:15.
Yeah,
and then this theater's got a 3:00. We've got all this opened up,
and it was packed. You know, it was absolutely packed and crazy. But and they did. This was I don't know when they started doing this. When they started releasing on Wednesdays, because they released Star Wars on Wednesday night, and then it led into the weekend. But the movie that opened that weekend with it was The Love Letter.
You serious?
Which I couldn't tell you a thing about that movie, but it was just funny working at.
We probably won't do that one. I don't know.
Like, I think Ellen DeGeneres and I couldn't tell you a thing about it. I never saw it. And that poor movie, I don't know if it was just like sitting at the bottom of the trash heap and someone was like, all right, let's throw this one out there. We need to, somebody's got to put a movie out there. So that thing came out and it was like, oh, this poor movie, because I think maybe like on a given day, like 10 people would go see it. And it was like and it was these couples, like, and the guy was always just like, I'd rather be seeing
older couples,
but like, you could tell the guy, whoever the guy in the couple was like, I want to see Star Wars. And my girlfriend's dragging me out to this thing, like, this movie, and it was gone like a week later. Like,
hey, maybe it did better on VHS or DVD came out. Maybe people rented it at Blockbuster or Hollywood Video before those went the way of the Dodo Bird 2. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, checking out this episode of Back in 99. If you liked it, give it a like. Why not? Subscribe, give us a comment. We'll see you again on the next episode of Back in 99. Later.